Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Footy podcast. I'm Jack Hudson, and joining me, as always, is Port Adelaide legend Warren Tredrea. Treaders, how you going, mate?
Well, Hutto, we can't say we've started the season. We've sort of started the season, but we only had 4 games, so we've sort of half started the season. But geez, it was a good half start.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, but it left me wanting more, especially with a long weekend.
Well, it's a bit like that appetizer at dinner when you rock up starving. You can eat your own arm off, but you're waiting for the steak after you've had that nice little shrimp cocktail or spring rolls or salt and pepper calamari that you always love. So, yeah, I think the AFL did really well. I thought the Queensland and New South Wales ideas of 4 games in total, Thursday, Friday, Saturday was great, but they missed one thing. All right, and I don't say this with my Port Adelaide board member hat on. I felt Sunday after hot weather in Adelaide, the whole
hmm
period. I saw Thursday, I saw Friday, I saw Saturday or Sunday, but I didn't see the whole game in its entirety because the kids' sport and everything on. On Monday, we had the public holiday, which is the Adelaide Cup Horse Race Day. I would have
Yes.
thought Sunday night game, right, would have been a perfect time to have that game from this coming Sunday between Port Adelaide and everyone who's expecting a heavily supported, very rich West Coast footy club, but are in
Mm.
total rebuild mode. That would create more interest in the game than a twilight fixture this coming Sunday. So I would just thought, hey, I get it. It's the New South Wales Northern experiment. It went really well, but I felt just an idea, Hutto, that you could play 2 more games, maybe not even two. Let's just say one. We play the Adelaide game, Port Adelaide, based in Adelaide, Port Adelaide ahead of the Adelaide Cup. And if that's always going to be on a Monday. So maybe your season works that way. I'm not sure. But you sit there and go play then. Then the next year, Adelaide Crows get a go, maybe with Fremantle. Or
Mm.
maybe that takes 2 years before that happens. You swap them, and then Western Australia, West Coast, could play Adelaide or return against Port, or Fremantle could host Adelaide or even take on Port Adelaide. So you got that Sunday game. If there is no public holiday in the West, you could play that twilight game because let's face it, a lot of home games against lower pulling audiences, which is generally your interstate clubs, always play those twilight games. The blockbuster ones against the big clubs are always played on your prime time. But as we see, the second tier Victorian teams will often play that twilight game over at Docklands, the same as Adelaide Oval against the GWS, the Gold Coast, the West Coast, the Fremantle,
Yeah.
Sydney, those teams, and the same happens in Western Australia. So I thought one more game would have been perfect. You have 5, you follow with the full round as we see, and obviously there's those teams that are resting who played in the original match, so they'll be having floating buys between round 2, round 3, either side of gather round 5, round 6.
Would you even consider potentially, would you do a split round like we used to back in the day to open the season? Like,
Well, effectively, you get that anyway.
yeah,
You sort of get that anyway, because I must admit, only a month ago, I said, oh, so Rob, they play round 1, have round 2 off. No, there's a split function. So, yeah, I don't know. I know I could hear Chris Scott saying it's all about equalisation, all that. I look at the way Geelong's gone. They're now up. In my time in football, I played at the old Cardinia Park. Then they called it Skilled Stadium, Target Stadium. They had all these different names. What is it now?
GMHBA.
GMBA, yeah. Back in Target, mate, it was Target closed, the shopping centre, and had a big Target behind the goal. So they've effectively done very, very well, Geelong, as being a marginal seat, both federally and state, and they've upgraded their whole stadium. So my bit is, would Geelong potentially want to be a team that makes more money at home? Yeah, they were making $1 million a home game before half the developments were done because their
Mm.
lease was next to nothing. They had to play the big games at the MCG, effectively away from home against a Collingwood or a Richmond. But then again, we saw that final many years ago with Fremantle. So what would you do? I'm not sure what the best fix is. All I know is we played 4 games. It was unbelievably successful. And when
Yep.
the new footy boss, Laura Kane, comes out and said everything was up, media, attendance, broadcast, that's the money factor. I thought the fans enjoyed it, but I just felt on Sunday I was looking for things to do.
Yeah, I was absolutely bored shitless, if I'm honest, on Sunday when trying to find something to do. But I did like it, and I did like it for the northern states to sort of get that vibe where all the attention's on them when it comes to footy. And they put on a showcase. Like the Suns were outstanding for a half, and Collingwood GWS was a masterpiece to watch. Just a young team carve up the reigning premiers. In
Well,
all
if
honesty.
you look at that Gold Coast game,
Mm.
how many back-to-back goals was it?
I think it was 11 in a row.
Sun kick 11, and then I think Richmond kicked 6, something like
Yeah,
that. What happened in the Brisbane game? Carlton
yeah.
kicked 7 goals in a row, I think, something like that. So that says to you that the scoring swings are there massively. It's hard with the 6-6-6 and some of the slow tactics to slow the game down now, and it's clearly off the back of the transition and stoppage game. So I want to get your take on this one.
Hmm.
AFL umpires still don't have access to stats before lodging Brownlow medal votes. Good move or bad move?
Good move. I think it's a good
Why?
move. Because it obviously would impact their choices, and they go, "Oh yeah, like yeah, he
Oh,
had a good game."
we can't remember who. I'm not sure. Let's go to Stat Pig.
Yeah, how many? Like Tom Rockcliffe would have won 15 Brownlows, I reckon, through his whole career. He has had 38. Brisbane been smoked by 90 points, but he gets the
Yeah.
3 votes.
He
I,
used to, he
I,
used to be the king of that. Kick the ball just in front of him, pick it up,
yeah,
walk it over the boundary line. He got. Yeah, he's hot this quarter. No, he's a bloody good player, all Australian too.
yeah. No,
Um,
but like,
eh,
I think it's a good move. Like we saw
yeah,
some very questionable votes last year,
yeah, we
but
did, but we're always gonna, mate, because we're the award. When's the last time a Ford won the award?
it would be Plugger. I think.
87,
Yeah,
right? When's the last time a Ruckman won the award?
that would have been 92,
One.
91,
Steins. Oh, you're right.
not
Scotty
Scotty
Wine ran in.
Wines,
They back-to-back Ruckman. Then your only hybrid question mark whether it was a ruckman, loose player, extra
Adam
stoppage player
Goods.
with Adam Goods.
Yeah.
So yeah, like some of the greatest players of all time, Wayne Carey didn't get. I think he might have got third or fourth once,
Mm.
and that was back in the era when Gamma Wanganeen won one with 19 votes. Well, they're closing in on 50 votes now, 40 votes to win one, which is I think it's just clearly a midfielder award, but we
Mm.
all know that anyway. But yeah, I agree with you. I like the fact the umpires actually have to get their feel right. It does question whether experts should do it, but I can guarantee you, mate, after people are so-called experts are that engrossed in calling games of footy, getting sponsor
Mm.
credits right if you're on radio or TV, watching the broadcast bits and pieces, that you're sort of caught in trying to work out the tactics and different ideas, and you can't see who got that quick ball out of handball stoppage
Yeah.
unless you get a great replay on it. So, yeah, and this is all off the back of, too, that with the umpires not having access to it. Lockie Neal was a bit controversial, people said. I think he still went pretty close to even winning the best and fairest, didn't he? Last year
Mm.
for the Lions, and he won with 31 votes. Bontempelli 29, Dacos 28, and Dacos would have won that Brownlow, and he would have
Yeah.
won the Copeland Trophy from his brother if he didn't miss the last 4 or so games of the year. So, and as we said, it was the same 6 players at the top of the leaderboard of the Coaches Association award. So for me, it says that's getting it right, because the only people that know your role better than anyone are the coaches, particularly the opposition coach you've caused headaches for, or your own coach who's really happy with the way you perform. So Neil was not in the All-Australian team, which was probably a bit of a shock, right? And the last time that happens when Matty Prius won it in 2014.
Yeah.
So there was a few surprises. But the big question around, as we talk about his concussion, is what Sam Edmund is reporting from SEN, talking about the Angus Brayshaw payout. He's got 5 years on a contract at Melbourne. He's been medically retired by the game. What do we think is going to happen, Addo?
Well, it's going to be it's going to be big. Whatever it is, it's going to be. I think it's going to change contracts. Obviously, we've seen a lot of long-term deals be signed recently, but someone with a history of concussions, clubs are going to be careful. But then there's going to be another club that capitalizes that one, tries to have the gamble, and goes bang.
Well, I can understand why you say that, but then history probably doesn't suggest that that's the case, because Brayshaw had been wearing a helmet for years from multiple concussions. He hadn't had, I don't think, it had a hit for quite some time, at least 3-4 years, I think, by memory. I might be wrong. But then obviously the Maynard collision, when Maynard goes to smother and follows through, cleans him up, he doesn't play again. But he
Yeah.
was still offered a 5 or 6 year extension. So he's left 5 year deals on really good money, multi-million-dollar deal, even if it's 700 a year, right?
Yeah.
That's 3.5 mil, right? The thing is, too, a lot of clubs would be sitting here watching and waiting, because you go, his severance payout is likely to create a precedent, right? We talked on
Yep.
this program, on this podcast, House of Footy, about how Pepper's 4 be a precedent. Then we obviously saw the St Kilda player incident getting 7, right? And there's no precedent or blueprint for this formula for a medically retired player, because who holds a significant contract, right? You sit there and look at it. Gary Pert and Brayshaw's manager, Tom Petrora of TLA Management Group, are having these discussions. The AFL, because they're medically retired him, there'd have to be a portion that sits in the salary cap. The other part would have to be, well, how does this work because really it was taken out of his hands. The AFL, the
Yeah.
game retired him, not the team. I like that move. I think it's best for his future. And I heard James Brayshaw, the Seven commentator, and his uncle say he's gone now on working in the finance industry. So not only is he going to get his 3.5 million or whatever it is, whatever figure he's on, it might even be more with TPP rises. There'll be negotiation, but because you're medically retired by the game, and the AFL has since changed its rules to avoid future head-high contacts in
Hmm.
relation to the incident with Maynard. I'd be surprised if it sits fully in their cap. And the other bit too is to talk about here is not only is your player contract, but there's also the AFL Players Association Injury Hardship Fund, which he's entitled to money out of that. Right, that's doubled to 54 million in the new CBA.
Jeez.
And then you throw in insurance on top. So I'd suspect that he'd get his payout. I'd assume that it would be the minimum of his contract. Then there's probably future damages going forward. Then there's the insurance payout off the back of that. And as we say, whether this hardship fund's involved, because if you look at Murphy at Collingwood, there's a question mark around what happens with him. He's not sitting on a 5-year deal. So the contract he would probably have to go without was potential future earnings. And then the insurance payout too. And this is Pandora's box. And a lot
Yeah.
of clubs will be sitting there waiting, going, hey, we got long-term contracts. If someone wiped out their knee, we know you would probably have to pay their contract out. The likelihood is you sort of could return to a decent style of living. But as we know with history of NFL, multiple concussions, the litigation and mass litigation against the AFL and NFL, which was paid out years ago in the billions of dollars, is the headaches, those other related brain injuries is the one that is the great unknown.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like in terms of like business side of things, like the salary cap. How can it be put on Melbourne's books when it wasn't, well, really the players' fault, and it wasn't the club's decision to retire him or go like that? So Melbourne were going, well, this wasn't sort of our doing,
Yeah,
really. So,
really, I'll ask you this.
mm,
When he's had multiple concussions, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have got the extension, but, and as you say, someone else might have grabbed him, but surely Melbourne's at some risk, or at least the discussion point of risk,
mm,
when they signed him to the 5 or 6 year extension, knowing what he had.
there's also that point, yeah. But it's a grey area
Yeah, and that's why
between the two.
that's why I love the fact that the AFL led with this, because
Yep,
now Brayshaw is going to be as good as possible. Yeah, he'll be in a good
yep,
situation provided his current issues aren't ongoing, right? But imagine if he kept playing, had multiple. The AFL stepped in at the right time. Some argue, oh, you might should have been sooner, but by this and looking after him, so he's not got the pressure to pay out his contract to earn his money, you're taking away massive pressure. He's going to be set up for life. And I think he's either married or engaged to the late Danny Frawley's daughter. You know, um, young, still got plenty of years life. Yes, footy. He won a premiership. He can retire happy and go, hey, the game was taken away, but I'm set up for life. I'm now
mm,
going into a new venture, potentially 3 or 4 years earlier than he would have previously. So I think that the decision on the AFL has been pretty good on this one.
yeah, no, that's fair. And we'll go to Richmond now, and obviously there's murmurs that Brendan Gale is set to return to his home state, Tasmania, to head up the 19th team. Like this would be a huge loss for the Tigers, but a massive game for Tassie.
Well, it's this is as big a get as it was for Gold Coast Suns to pinch Gary Ablett from Geelong.
In
But I
terms of an
think maybe
off-field,
it might
yeah.
be better in terms of off-field because he knows Tassie. Yes, it's probably 20 odd years since he's lived there as a kid. Obviously played Richmond, I think, for 12 odd years, 250 games for Richmond. Then famously went out and said, we want to get 100,000 members, be debt-free and win 3 flags in 5 years. And what they win? They win 3 in 4 years and are an absolute powerhouse of a club now, re-engaged Richmond supporters that may have gone waning since the Kevin Bartlett days in terms of success. And the other bit here where I sit back and go, if you want someone to know the business, know AFL House, know how to put together a team, understand recruiting, understand the landscape he's going to work with government, because we know that we say the Liberals and Labors, the two sides of government, are still humming and ahhing. This license depends on funding for the stadium, depends on the government getting in.
Yeah.
And both sides of the government agreeing to it. I think he's the person to get it done, and I think it'd be a wonderful appointment. should he take up that option.
Yeah, definitely one of the best working football people going around for sure.
Oh, he's a star.
We go to gather round Tredders, and obviously this is home for us, so we can sleep in our own beds, go to the footy, watch different teams. Like it's pretty easy for us. But visitors for this year, they face paying up to 5 figures for 4 nights at different Airbnb accommodations for the festival football. And
Yeah, well,
this
it's
is
funny, isn't
crazy.
it? You get onto Airbnb, you do a search, and you go Adelaide properties the weekend, Thursday, the long weekend, Thursday, April 4 through to Monday, April 8. Well, yeah, 23 properties came up listed more than $10,000 for 4 days. Right.
Yep.
Then you've got another 17 asking prices high in the 4 figures. So 9,999 and below. Industry figures say that hotel occupancy for the booking rate for gather rounds currently sits between 69% for Thursday night through to 82 for Friday and Saturday. So hotels are going to be chockers. Food and beverage pubs are going to be huge. I think it's a wonderful event. But you talk about this time last year, there's no precedent for this. So we go into, it gets the sexy bit here, mate. So we go to Anguston out the Barossa way, where Penfold's main winery is, right? You can get a
Yes.
3-bedroom homestead there listed for 12,980 for 4 nights. 3-bedroom. It's not a shack that can hold 30 people, right? Or you can go down south of the beautiful south coast where you go down to Aldinga Beach, which was just beautiful, right? 7-bedroom house. At least you get the extra rooms. They're advertising at 9,257. Right, that's for 4 nights. But then if you want to go just the inner west on the
Yep.
beach round the way, and I suspect this house is not on the beach, you get a room in Grange. Hutto.
Oh, yep. Nice.
You get to stay with Emily. She's a host where you share parts of the home with other guests for a 4-night price of $9,358.
What?
So you're squatting in someone else's house, effectively a hostel, but better. In
Yep.
Grange, which is a beautiful suburb. You're going to spend all your time, if you go to gather round, travelling between Adelaide CBD, Norwood, Adelaide Oval, and games in Mount Barker.
Yep.
And you're going to stay at Grange in the West and pay $9,000 for a bed you don't even get to sleep in.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah. Like
What a
the
friggin' rip-off.
best thing about Anguston, obviously, my sort of way. That takes a good hour, maybe hour 20 minutes to get the CBD.
How's that the best thing? You just said the best thing about Anguston is you're going to sit in a car for an hour, so 2 hours a
Possibly an
day
Uber.
to get to your overpriced. How much?
13
$12,000,
grand.
nearly $13,000 house. It's only got 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, best thing because you're
4
basically
grand.
paying that again.
$4,000 a bed.
You're basically paying that for Uber as well. That's just that's silly. You're better off like just rocking up and trying to door knock on someone saying, "I'll pay for your mortgage for a week and can I just sleep on your couch?"
Back in the day when I covered the 2017 grand final for the Nine Network,
Yep.
the boss said, "Where do you want to stay? We can put you on this street, this street." I said, "I don't care." He goes,
You're
"Mate, what
famous.
about here?" I said, "That's Chinatown." Cool, mate. You should have seen the room I had. My mate came over, 2 single beds. You're that close. There was barely a foot difference between 2 beds. Right. I pointed the lounge room. Right. That was out of my arm's length. That had 1 chair. Then the
Oh,
TV. Then the ensuite, which was a shower that was fixed at about 5 foot. And you
oh
know
yeah.
what? I was in Chinatown. How much time do you reckon I spent there? When I
No,
got
you.
home and slept, and you got up and gone all day, reporting and/or having dinner late at night. Mate, I wouldn't be, go against the Airbnb rip-off people of the world of Adelaide. Mate, all you need is a bed to sleep in.
Oh,
I got a spare
jeez.
bed here, mate. You can crash. You probably have a cavoodle and a schnauzer sleeping on you, but hey, I'd do that for $1,000 cash.
Yeah, easy cash. It's pub money.
Yeah,
Sort you out.
exactly. Hutto, you could host them. You need a babysitter. You got a newborn. That'll go down well.
Yeah, no, enjoy being woken up at 3 a.m. by a baby sounding alarm.
Imagine that
Be
with
very
a
good.
Victorian or Queenslander or wherever has come and go, oh, I got this Airbnb. They left the baby with me. Nah.
You can't actually go to the games. That's when you're babysitting. Unlucky.
Yeah, chin up, mate.
Oh, we go to some contract extensions. So Will Power signed the Suns until 2029. Now, here's the funny bit.
Mm-hmm.
Put the bottom of our run sheet here. He's DM'd notorious long contract hater Kane Corns
Yeah.
on Instagram. He said, "Hope you don't mind about the extension, mate." With a winky face.
Why?
Oh, just a bit of shits and giggles, I suppose. Well, and then yeah, Kane said that he's excused and wrapped for you, mate, which wrapped spelled very much incorrectly. So sort
How
me
do you
out, Kane.
spell it? Like
WRAPPED.
Kane's
He's
wrapping a
wrapped him up.
present, is he?
Yeah.
Give him a huggy.
Jeez, gone off topic. And last thing we've got, so yeah, eagle-eyed South Australian living in British Columbia, Canada, spotted a logo. This is on the Channel 10 Twitter page. Saw this.
Yeah.
Looks very similar to the old Port Adelaide Power logo with the Thunderbolt, one that you've obviously played with Treaders. It's not eerily similar as quoted. It's bang on. It's next to no difference.
So who's using it, mate?
A Power Frost AC and heating company has
So
adopted the logo.
So a bloke who fixes air conditioners and heaters.
Yep.
In where? Canada.
In Canada.
So he's ripped the old
yep,
lightning
the old fist
bolt
logo.
with the fist.
Yep.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Wonder if he wants a big float with that logo to go along with it.
See, it's funny. Not that I'd bring this up in a board meeting in the next 48 hours at Port Adelaide, but you go, oh, someone's using your intellectual property. Yeah, that was the logo we don't use anymore. And the bloke's in Canada has got no idea, but he's pinched the logo. Smart.
Imagine that bloke getting a letter. It's like it's a breach of copyright from Australia, stealing an Australian rules football team's logo.
Oh my gosh. Probably stay tuned for your TV newses tonight. They'll ask for a statement probably for Port Adelaide.
Oh,
mate, I've seen some things ripped off over the years. You know, there was Crazy Johns, then there was Crazy Rons, then there was all these little bits and pieces, and but yeah, I must admit, the old Port Adelaide logo with the fist and the power emblem, which we had when we won the flag back in 04. The last thing I think is it appeared was to be in Canada and effectively a air conditioning and heating mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like a weird place. It's like the Simpsons Mr. Sparkle episode. That's what it reminds me of. But
time to go, I think.
That's all from us this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Enjoy the footy.